All right, welcome everyone to 1 Million Cups Lincoln. I'm glad that you're all here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and network with other entrepreneurs and to hear speakers come and talk about their business. So just going to go through some 1 Million Cups information before we get started. 1 Million Cups is funded by the Kauffman Foundation, and our mission is to create a space where startups, seasoned founders, and curious newcomers come to build meaningful connections. So we focus on that this is about connections. Even though we network, it is about building those connections that you can have beyond just meeting here at 1 Million Cups. And there's lots of us. In the Midwest, everybody's meeting at the same time. So if you are on vacation or if you're on business and you feel like you want a free cup of coffee, maybe a donut, you can see that there's all different kinds of organizations throughout the Midwest, and we're part of the Midwest region. This wouldn't happen without our sponsors. So like I said, we are sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation, and we also partner with Lincoln Partner for Economic Development, Baird Home, Don't Panic Labs. Isn't it great to be able to have a space like this that we don't have to fight for parking, especially downtown? I drive through downtown every single morning, and I'm very grateful that I don't have to work there. My daughter does, so I hear about that. Escape Lincoln, Fuse, the mill that supplies our coffee every morning. That's great, right? That we have partners that supply that for us. Dow is with Merrill Lynch and Alloy String. So if you get a chance and you see any of these people that are part of these organizations, give them a thank you, because they don't have to do this, but without them, it wouldn't be possible for us. And here's our mighty team. If you see any of us and you have questions, Sarah and I have on our 1 Million Cup shirts, so that can designate us, but also these are the rest of us. Abby Bartholomew is with LPED. Ann McClure is with Escape Lincoln. Dane is with Bats and Rats. He's not here today because I didn't know this, but this is his busiest season. So part of me is glad that he's not here, because that means that he's got lots of business and he's taking care of his clients. Myself, I'm with Southeast Community College. I'm the director of the Entrepreneurship Center there. Dow is with Merrill Lynch. Dave is with Union Bank. Lindsay is here with Don't Panic Labs, and she's in the back. Sarah is with Olson, and Vaughn is with DM Strat. Please scan and check in. It's important that we have an accurate count of who is here, because the corporate or our headquarters take a look at those numbers. And so this is the number that they go by, not the head count that we may have. Office hours. So after the presentation today, we will have some, I don't see Quentin's here. Quentin is with MBDC, and he helps with government contracting. Is there anyone from Baird Home? Okay, they're here to help with legal advice. Dow is here with Merrill Lynch. Dave would be with Union Bank and Trust. And Vaughn and Zhao Zing, which I don't believe that she is here either. So we have very limited office hours today, but if you do have questions, please reach out to someone from the organizing team also. And so I'd like to introduce today's presenter. Bill is with AgSolaire, and so if Bill, you'd want to come up here and we will get your presentation going. So if we could give Bill a warm welcome.
All right, well, thank you, Amy, for the introduction, and really happy to be here, delighted to have the opportunity to speak with this group today. I was here for the first time last week. I've been meaning to come to some of these 1 Million Cups, and I must say the speakers last week were just truly dynamic. I don't know how many of you were here last week, and it made me scared for today, because to follow up that group is, you know, I don't consider myself a very dynamic speaker, but, you know, be that as it may, maybe I can tell you a few things about my company and see where we can go from there. And so I'm going to talk about AgSolaire. This is a company that I started back in 2023 when I left my position with BASF at the time. I don't know how many of you know this facility west of town. It's about 25 miles west of town, just off the Goner exit. Now there's a big Beck's hybrid seed place out there, but just a mile to the west of that is another big facility that used to be Bayer Crop Science to begin with, and that's why I moved to Nebraska originally to take a job as a wheat breeder there with Bayer Crop Science. Of course, Bayer wanted to buy Monsanto back in 2018, and so they went ahead and did that, but the Department of Justice said you can't have a monopoly, so you have to divest certain groups. So at that time, we were divested and sold to BASF. So I worked with BASF for a number of years after that, and then what we were trying to do was develop hybrid wheat, okay, for the region. As most of you probably, or some of you probably know at least, if you know crops and you know wheat is a self-pollinator. And as a self-pollinator, it's not like corn. It's difficult to make a hybrid, but if you can make a hybrid, you can really up the yield and so forth. And so that's why we were trying to develop that. Well, you know, the Ukraine-Russia war came on. BASF, just like Bayer, is a German company. That really hit them hard, energy-wise. And so they looked around the company and said, who's not making us money? And that was us. So they shut us down in 2023. I decided to start this business. And what it was is I was driving around to look at different nurseries as a wheat breeder around the region, and it just occurred to me, why aren't farmers using more renewable energy to power small pieces of equipment, things like barn fans, maybe even coverings for water for cattle and things like that. And so that was my idea, impetus for the idea. I realized that energy is cheap these days, particularly, it used to be at least, but we see what's happening with the geopolitical situation now and why you really don't want to rely on necessarily that kind of energy. So I thought I'd just start with a little bit of a story. Dal told me earlier, is this dangerous that I can take as much time as I want today because I'm the only presenter, so excuse me if I do go over 6 minutes here, but I'll try to keep it still fairly close. But this is my story as a founder. Way back in 1988 is when I graduated with my PhD. Hard to believe it was that long ago now, but I worked in wheat cytogenetics at the time. And that's looking at chromosomes of wheat and trying to manipulate the chromosomes of wheat in the sense that, I don't know how many of you know, but wheat's what we call a polyploid, has many chromosomes, and it kind of has duplicate sets of chromosomes. So it can afford to lose a chromosome, and maybe half a chromosome or something like that. And at University of Missouri, there was a famous cytogeneticist, Ernie Sears, that worked with USDA, and he developed a whole set of what's called aneuploids, where you manipulate those chromosomes. And so that is what I was working on back then. Subsequent to that, I won't go through all these details, but I began working more as a breeder as it went through my career. And I joke that I continued to move southward in that through my career, starting, first I started working at Ohio State University, then moved to Purdue University, worked there for a little while, more as an apprentice breeder at those locations. And I got my first real breeding job leading a breeding program at North Dakota State back in 1998. Worked there about 10 years, then South Dakota State after that as a wheat breeder as well. And then moved, like I said, to here to Nebraska in 2013, start working in industry. This is really where I got interested in technology, working with industry with things like AI models and machine vision, because we were looking at grain sorting as part of the hybrid program at that time. And so basically what I wanted to show here is that I have a 36-year career in ag research and plant breeding, so that gives you some context with what I'm building here as a company. Here's the company story. Like I said, it was started in 2023 here in Lincoln, founded in Lincoln, taken a number of different courses on entrepreneurship. These were great courses for me to take because I never started a company myself, and so it was nice to take those. I've highlighted a couple things here that have really pushed me forward or pushed the company forward, and that is in 2024, November 2024, I got a Nebraska DED prototype grant. These are really great grants. Some of you may have gotten these before or at least know of them. I heard recently, of course, that they were thinking about doing away with the program because of budget problems, but believe me, I hope that stays around because they're great programs. In fact, more recently here in just this past June 2026, I've gotten a research and development, academic research and development grant from the DED as well to continue to push this forward. The reason for that is because after I got the prototype grant, I started working even more closely with the University of Nebraska here and folks to develop the technology that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. So I'll go back to when I first became, the company is a member of the Combine at UNL. And when I first started talking about becoming a member of the Combine, Josh Demirs was the lead of the Combine at the time. And when Josh and I sat down for coffee one day and I talked about all the ideas I had for this company, and Josh just stopped me and said, you got to focus on one problem, one thing to develop this, to start developing this company. And so that's what I started to do. And here's the problem I'm trying to address with what we're building as the first product. So, information is power, right? Everybody needs information. I do the analogy like, you're going to buy a car. Most people will research what they want in that car, what the prices are before they go to the showroom or talk to a salesman about it. That's information that gives them power to negotiate and get maybe the best deal they can. We're trying to do the same thing for farmers, and actually probably the beachhead market will be researchers like I used to be, plant breeders, to give them information early on in the process, because both of them need this information on grain quality before they do anything with their grain, okay? So for the wheat breeder, they need to select the best lines to push through their breeding programs, okay? And they start that at a very early stage where they have a very limited amount of seed. And so to get information on grain quality, grain size, and also estimate yield is very important to them. And for the farmer, it would be marketing. So, how good is it for the farmer, whether it's he or she taking their crop to the elevator? They already know that they have high protein content in that grain. They already know that they have high test weight. They're going to get maximum price, and so they can tell the elevator that. No matter what the elevator tells them, they say, hey, I tested it at home. I know it's good to go. So, and it's free of disease too, because that's another thing that we're going to look at, disease of the seed. So this is what I began developing. I used to call this the smart grain thresher because not only does it thresh and clean Wheat, because I started with wheat. We are expanding it to work with soybean and corn as well, but at least we started with wheat because that's my background. So the idea was to take a single spike of wheat, as you see here, put it through this threshing mechanism, and as it falls through the column, there's a fan at the bottom that blows air, and the air puts the chaff into the bag on the side, and you get clean seed at the end. Currently, it falls down off of a little bit of a ramp onto a scale there, a bucket on a scale where we weigh the seed. And the most important thing, this is where I tell people the magic happens, is that a camera takes a picture of the seed on the tray, okay, and there's an AI model, and by machine vision and an AI model, you get all this information. It takes about 3-4 seconds maybe to get all this information that deposit it into a single spreadsheet format, which is what I really wanted it to do for breeders and, of course, again, for farmers. Also, of course, as I'm showing here, this is powered, this whole system is powered. I made the decision recently to separate these two components, and so I'm talking more about this as a system now than just one device. But still, if somebody wanted to purchase both together, it would still pick, for example, for farmers or even breeders that want to take it out to the field, it would fit on the back of a pickup tailgate or something like that. So anyway, it takes that picture. You see how it's dotting it with the colors there. So we've trained the model to get all that information off of it. And most recently, we're in the process of adding a near-infrared sensor to this probe to actually get information from internal to the seed, things like what I talked about before, protein content and maybe oil content when it comes to soybean and other type of crops. That's what the Nebraska DED R&D grant is doing for us, allowing us to put that on there. So I thought this slide would be interesting to show you because this is the development of the product. People that know me knew, even when I worked at BASF, they used to call me the PVC guy because I really like to work with PVC to develop things. And so the first one there, version 1, was developed in my garage, a thresher that's made out of PVC pipe. I was actually using an egg beater for the threshing component. It actually worked pretty well, that I bought off of Amazon as the original thresher. And then as I've developed and gone along, you may have seen in one of the earlier slides that I was made given a fellowship at the Nebraska Innovation Studio. And that's really helped me to do a lot of 3D printing, learn 3D printing. So as we moved on, all of this stuff has been more or less printed by 3D printing at the Innovation Studio. But now you see that's the version that I'm currently got in my house right now that I'm probably going to take out to Husker Harvest Day. Well, I know I'm going to be at Husker Harvest Days demonstrating, and that's probably the version that I'll take out to there. Two separate ones, and the reason for that is because there's so much vibration and dust and so forth produced by the thresher. It's really difficult to get good readings, stable readings off the sensitive scale because you're only talking about like a gram of seed at the most, lots of times, as far as wheat is concerned. So this is my final slide, since, again, I was trying to keep it relatively short. But this is some of the areas, I think, as I was asked, how could the Lincoln entrepreneurship community and the community at large help me? These are some of the ways I think I could use some help. I've taken several of these, maybe some of you are familiar with these NSF-sponsored I-Core courses, but they're related to customer discovery, and that is find out if anybody really wants to buy what you're trying to develop. That's the idea. You're not trying to pitch your product or anything like that. You're just trying to find out if they really want your product. And so I just completed the second one of those courses, did quite a few interviews for that. And I really do think the beachhead market, at least, will be the research area for this product. And but I think, there's some utility going to be there for farmers as well, as I expected. And so I'll find out maybe more of that at Husker Harvest Days. So I'm hoping to do more customer discovery there. But if you know anybody that's a grain producer or might be interested in this, particularly folks that maybe be organic producers and those that are really interested in quality of seed, or even if they just need to rapidly count their seed, and that this product will do that kind of thing for them. And believe it or not, there aren't a lot of apps that I've found. And so we're probably even going to sell the software separately too, that will rapidly count a tray of seed or something like that. And so a lot of time farmers need to calibrate their planter. And I've seen online before them saying, how do I do that? How do I count all the seed if I don't have a expensive seed counter or something myself right now before I calibrate my planter? So that's one thing. I'm open to talking to anybody about this product. Identify a possible co-founder. Here, I'm finding it's really difficult as you grow the company. I need to start hiring some people. I can't do all of this myself. It's getting to be a little bit too much. I'm probably looking for somebody who's got more of a financial background, marketing type of background, because of course I've never done this kind of thing myself, and so that would be really helpful to me. Obviously it's kind of hard to do when you don't have a salary that you can offer to somebody at this point, but nevertheless, there's ways, of course, we could, somebody may be able to gain some equity in the company for future coverage of their salary and so forth. The final thing is matching AgSolaire to local manufacturers. I've been part of the manufacturing extension partnership group here. I think that's a nationally funded group to try to link entrepreneurs that are in the maker space for products to local manufacturers. I've talked a little bit with the Innovation Studio about small runs of initial product production, and that's a possibility for sure. But I'm trying to canvass the local area to see what there is. There's not a lot of companies out there that want to do small runs for companies because retooling just for a small run of things is not on a lot of people's radar. So that's what I'm looking for help as well. So thank you.
Here you go, Bill. Thank you for presenting today. Any questions for Bill?
Yes.
Can you go back to the slide that has your thrasher and the features?
Yeah, let's see. This one?
Yeah. So you're using vision to identify seed moisture and protein content on seeds?
Not vision, but that's what requires the near infrared sensor. So, yeah.
And then a follow-up question. I'm looking, if I understand that correctly, you're using AI to find out the quantity, the weight, the size, shape, all that. And it's a really small sample, you said about a gram. So do you really need AI to do all that?
Well, you need it to do it rapidly. I don't know. Somebody can make a visual inspection, and that's for sure what a lot of breeders currently do at the time, right now. But sometimes, it's close. You're talking, a wheat seed itself is about maybe 4 or 5 millimeters wide at the most, and about 8 millimeters in length. And so, it depends on how good you are at really detecting this. This is a quantitative way to do it for sure. We're also, I didn't show it here, but I did mention it, we also are training it to identify diseased seed. There's a really bad disease of wheat and small grains in general in this area in the Midwest, and that's scab or fusarium head blight. It's a fungal disease, and it causes what are called tombstone kernels by the breeders because they look like.
I think that highlight is pretty important.
Yeah, and so we're training it to currently identify that, and so breeders could select very early in their program for types that have resistance to scab because they just look for ones that don't, that have the least amount of scab in their samples. In fact, the breeder here that I'm working with, I'll give this all credit to her for this idea, but she's like, I usually have students doing this kind of work, threshing my hedgerow plots and things like that. I would love this to be able to tell them whether to toss that sample or to keep it. In other words, the machine does the selection for her because she's not actually doing the threshing at that stage. And so we are going to put that feature in here. So, and the breeder can tell it, tell it to discard this level of scab, tell it to keep this level of it in the sample. So, yes, Dow.
You mentioned that you are growing and you're going through growing pains. We haven't seen any slides talking about your, how many companies are you working with right now? Are they all in Nebraska? You did mention about partner with some farmers to do some testing and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit more about the customer size, the financial size?
Yeah, good question. So currently, I didn't mention it, but with the prototype grant early on, or at least last fall, I actually tested a prototype, not as good as what I think I currently have, but it was good enough to be tested with the breeder here at the University of Nebraska. I also tested it with former colleagues at South Dakota State University. Again, I think the beachhead market's going to be at least the research area, which is why I'm testing in that area, and I've done a lot of customer discovery. A lot of people don't think that market's very big, but I think it's bigger than a lot of people realize, especially if you provide them with something that's going to really make their programs more efficient, and that which I hope this does. As far as working with companies to manufacture, I'm really at the early stages of that. With the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Group, we're supposed to have our last meeting sometime here in August. I thought it would already have taken place earlier here in August, but the idea was to try to link us to local manufacturers that are interested in helping entrepreneurs develop their product. The last meeting, I think they were talking about bringing some local manufacturers in. At various events, I have met certain manufacturers that have given me their cards and say they're kind of interested, but I haven't gotten to the point of really talking nuts and bolts yet to any of these, but so that's kind of where I'm at on that. I wanted to make sure I had a final product in pretty good shape before doing that. Yes, sir.
So, are you still looking for people to make individual components, or for manufacture, or are you looking for someone that can handle all of the manufacturing side of it? They can find source components, full assembly. They can manage the warehouse and logistics. Someone to handle all of that, or do you have plans for that, or you need consultation for that? What does it look like on the manufacturing side?
Yeah. As I indicated, I really haven't gotten into those intricate details yet. But, just a broad overview, yes, I would be looking for somebody in either area to make components of it, or make components and construct the entire thing. I think it's probably a little too early to talk about warehousing and that kind of stuff yet to see, which is why I'm talking about small scale production at this point. But
That just means storing the products where they're going to be before they get shipped. That could be in a garage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Because I think, I think I'm okay with constructing things myself since I started this in my garage with PVC. So I'd be happy if I could get, the prototypes I've been developing are really made out of basic PLA. And if you know anything about 3D printing, that's not very robust material. In fact, I've told the breeders that are testing the first prototype, don't take it out in the sun and leave it out there because it's going to warp and everything. So there are, more robust materials I could use for 3D printing, but this was the cheapest and quickest way to do it for the prototype. But yeah, that would be a big thing to make it out of more robust material, whether it's aluminum or, some kind of metal or whatever. Yeah.
Bill, I don't mean to cut anybody off, but Bill will be here after this, and so just to be able to respect everybody's time, if you can hook up with Bill afterwards to ask your questions. And so, yes, thank you, Bill. A few more things to go over. Some events that are coming up. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, take a picture of this. Lincoln AI, 1 million cups, you're here. It's every Wednesday at 8:30. Please come. What I find interesting about this group is that each week it's different. I've been to other events like this, and it seems like the same people show up every week. That is not the case here. If you came this week, you'll come next week and you'll see different people. Open coffee is every Thursday starting at 8 o'clock at Crescent Moon Coffee. Bail is the second Thursday of every month at the SCC at the Entrepreneurship Center. We've had that. Next month will be the third time that we will have that. It's hosted by SCC at our continuing education building, not main campus. Please come to our continuing education location, and we'd love to have you come to that. And lastly, Founders and Friends is the last Friday of the month at Boiler Brewing Company. If you're looking for something a little bit stronger than coffee, please feel free to come and participate in that. And lastly, if you didn't get a chance to check in, please do that so we can have an accurate number of who attended today. Thank you, everyone, for coming.